Listening for God's voice. It's so hard, but is it really? He wants to talk to us. He wants the relationship. He wants to be part of our lives. So this guest today is going to share with us some ways that we can connect and listen to God. So here we go.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders. Thank you for joining us today. It's such a beautiful day. The sun is shining. My flowers are blooming. If you followed me for a while, you know that I love gardening and the flowers look amazing. And we also have an amazing guest today. This is LaChelle Wieme. Hi, LaChelle. How are you?
So glad to be here, Lois. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. So I am a nurse anesthesiologist by trade. So I went to school for like 100 years to do what I thought I was supposed to do with my life, being the good girl, going to school, getting the education. And I ended up in 2016 being exposed to my very first business that I started to run online. And I got to tell you, Lois, that experience opened me up to what I call the and life, meaning that I recognize that God has things for us that are beyond the things, the patterns of this world, like I say, the things that we think we should do, we should in ourselves all the time. And it opened my eyes to the fact that I get to create a life of impact and be challenged and fulfilled and be a more present mom and wife. And it led me down this path of just exploration of myself, my purpose, where he was leading me. And so now I call myself a God-centered manifestation mindset and business coach. And honestly, I just love helping people to realize everything they're capable of and to get out of our own stinking way, especially those of us that can get stuck into the patterns of this world, the hustle, the grind, the doing things that we think we have to and burning ourselves out, because that's not what God has for us either. So that's really who I am in a nutshell. I still get to do anesthesia a few times a month for my hometown hospital. And I also then get to like travel the world and pour into my clients. And I don't know, this is the life that he had for me. And I'm so, so glad that we have been able to connect so we can talk about all the things that I've had to learn the hard way.
So what's the biggest thing you think you learned the hard way?
Yes. So I think that the biggest thing that I had to learn the hard way is that I don't have to rely on myself, that I get to lean on the Lord, right? And so I'm going to give you a kind of pivotal moment that shifted everything for me, if that's okay with you.
Oh,
So,
please do.
so I started my business in 2016, like I mentioned, and I'm a high achiever. I'm sure many of you guys that are listening can relate to that. And I saw the vision, I saw what was possible. And I knew that everything that I had, created up to that point was because of my hard work, my tenacity, my discipline, my hustle. And so that was, how I was programmed, the achiever in me, right? And so what happened was I was trying to build this online business alongside my full-time demanding career. I was a professor at the time as well. I had two kids, a husband who deserved my attention. And in my mind, I had all of these shoulds, the things that I needed to do, right? And of course, in my mind, in my human perspective, if 10 things are necessary to be successful, if I do 20 or 30, then they're going to get me there faster, right? And so what I was finding that I was doing was being coachable to a fault. So anything that somebody told me to try, I did it. I did it all. And I implemented this strategy and this strategy and this strategy to the point where I was literally burning myself out at both ends. And I was neglecting my health. I was neglecting the family that was, the motivator for me to do all of this. And I was really trying to do it all by myself, my performer self, right? And I had this amazing conversation one day with a friend of mine, and she said, "LaChelle, you know, you keep saying that you're in this partnership with God." And I'm like, "Yep, yep, totally." And she said, "So what percentage of the work do you think God does and what percentage is on you?" And I'm like, 50-50, like that just makes sense, right? And so she's like, "So you're telling me that the creator of the universe is asking you to carry all of that weight. And I was like, oh, I guess not, right? And so she's like, if you can just allow yourself to open yourself up to receiving his guidance, you will be able to let go of all of the pressure that you've placed on yourself and allow yourself to get into flow with what it is that he has for you. And honestly, like that was a major turning point for me, Lois, because I recognized what has now become my flow state money method, which is really about healing the patterns of this world that had sabotaged me for a long time, the lack of confidence, the lack of courage, the lack of clarity, the lack of consistency, the things that were holding me into this pattern, and allowing myself to open up to the way the Lord is leading me, to get into sync, into alignment with him. And when I do that, then I can get into aligned, inspired action and do the things that he's asking me to do. And so I can take now one step that's more fruitful than 100 of the things that I used to do, right? And I have more time, more abundance to live and give with, and the impact that I've been able to make is beyond anything I could have ever done on my own. But I had to learn the hard way that it's not all on me. I have to, of course, do my part. I can't sit on my couch and expect people to just show up at my door asking to work with me, right? But I don't have to have all the pressure to do it on my own. And I love teaching people to submit and to be able to receive and accept and allow the fun and the joy and the ease and the flow to come back into our mission. And that's kind of what I would have to say to that.
So what's the beginning step of really submitting to
Yeah.
God, if especially in your business?
Yeah, no, I think that it really just comes down to healing some patterns and some wounding, honestly. I think that what I found in my own experience is that when we are born in this lifetime, that we essentially forgot. We forgot who we are, whose we are, and that many of us have learned, perhaps you and your listeners have talked about this, that many of our belief systems and our paradigms are formed before we're 7 years old. Okay. And the way that God created us allows us to be able to accept without reservation what we're taught from our caregivers at a young age without rejecting it. So everything that we learn from that young age is accepted. And so oftentimes though, what it does is it creates static. It creates a block and a barrier between who we are and who we were made to be. And really, it turns out that I believe that our lifetime is literally just us unlearning some patterns of this world and allowing ourselves to remember who we are and whose we are. And that beautiful journey is part of the purpose of why we're here. And so that's what I would say is it's unlearning some of those patterns, and those patterns that I have discovered through my own experience and through many, many conversations with clients are things like, that lack of confidence, right? Believing that we're not worthy of receiving. You don't know how many times I've had this conversation with my mom, like specifically. She told me once that she didn't want to bother God with her requests because he had enough things to worry about than her little things. Now, interesting, like that's her perspective, but that would have been an adapted perspective that I had to unlearn. Because I know that when God gives me the opportunity to trust him in the little things, it allows me to trust him in the big things, and that he wants me to depend on him and rely on him for all things, right? But I had to unlearn that. So that worthiness of being able to receive abundance, to receive help. Oftentimes I have clients that come to me with money mindset problems, like it's wrong or they feel shameful for wanting to have an abundant life. But God is a God of limitless resources and abundance, and he wants to bless people through us, right? So if we're blocking what he's trying to give us, then we cannot allow ourselves to use us and our experiences to be able to bless people, right? And so we let these patterns of things that we've learned or picked up to limit us from being able to really accept and receive and allow him to work through us. Another thing that I see a lot is confusion, remembering that God is not the God of confusion. And so we think that if we that we think that oftentimes there's a right or a wrong. And that if we are not on the right path, then we're doing something wrong, and that we are wrong, and that there's something wrong with us, and all those things. And again, they can become blocks because if I think I'm wrong, if I think there's something wrong with me, it's going to be harder for me to receive the love, the grace, the guidance that he's trying to give me. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah. And then I think too, like courage is another big one that blocks us from being able to fully allow and receive from him. Because what happens is the patterns of this world, the lifetime that we have, builds upon itself. So is it okay if I get kind of, nerdy here for a second? Because my secret sauce that everything that I do, it has to do with scripture, brain science, and quantum physics. So I'm gonna
Yeah, please go nerdy all the way.
all right, I love it. So brain science wise, so I told you that, our brain accepts these beliefs very, very young because our conscious thoughts cannot accept and reject until we're about 7 years old. Okay. So we accept all of that. We're like giant sponges. What happens then is that these belief systems are formed as kind of like the underlying software that runs our subconscious brain. And we don't think about it. It just is. It just is part of who we are. Okay. So if I just accept that the sky is blue, the sky is blue. There's no resistance to it. It just is. And so the same thing goes with believing that perhaps I'm a bother, believing that I'm not worthy of nice things, believing that I have to please everyone in order to be accepted and loved. Do you know what I'm saying? So these are beliefs. They're ingrained into me, and it just is. Okay. So we have this part of our brain called the reticular activating system, or RAS for short. And that part of the brain is very specifically designed to help filter out things that are unnecessary. Okay. Sounds great. Sounds very efficient because there's lots of stimulus, right? But what happens is, though, is that the reticular activating system, the RAS, is only going to look for things that align with who I believe I am and how I believe the world works. Okay. So if I believe that I am not worthy, that I will continue to see because my brain filters out things that are opposing that view. And I will only see evidence that I'm not worthy, that I'm not worthy of nice things, that people don't treat me as worthy. And I'm going to continue to be submissive. I'm going to be continue to accept things that are just okay. I'm going to continue to not speak up. Do you know what I'm saying? Because our brain is only going to look for things that align with that world viewpoint that we have set as our underlying software. And we have to be able to recognize that and say, okay, now that I know better, I can do better. And I can start to, on purpose, look for evidence that is in alignment with the life that I want or that the belief that I want to have. What is truth? The truth is I am already loved and I am already worthy. Because if I wasn't, God wouldn't have died for me.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's truth. So anything that is contradictory to truth, I have to acknowledge it with my conscious mind and say, okay, now I'm going to start looking for evidence. I'm going to collect that evidence in my evidence bank of like, oh my goodness, that person said this about me and I'm going to receive that. Or this just happened and I'm going to receive that. And before long, your brain is going to start to identify that is who you are and how the world works. And then all of a sudden, you won't have to work as hard to try to find evidence because your RAS is going to start finding it for you. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. So what is a first meeting like with you?
I don't, I think that a lot of times people come to me because they want to know what's possible. I'm kind of a possibilities, anointing in possibilities. I can see what you can't see sometimes, and I can see what your blind spots and your roadblocks are. And people oftentimes come to me because they think that they need a strategy to make that possible life happen. LaChelle, what do I do? Right? And what I find that a lot of my clients are always surprised by when they meet with me is that, yes, I can be a guru. Yes, I can tell you everything that I've done that has worked for me over the last, almost a decade. I can tell you what to avoid. I can tell you, what the market's doing, all those things. Of course, I can do that. But I do not want to ever be your guru. I want you and God to be your guru. And so what I do is I teach people how to trust themselves. I allow them to tap into this beautiful space where you learn how to ask God yes, no questions, which is actually a lot easier than you think. Discernment is a big deal. Like, how do I know that it's not just me, doing what I think I should do or that I want to do? And I tell people all the time, because God has asked me to do things all the time that I don't want to do. And I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? Really? Are you sure? And it's always for my best good, or it's always going to be the thing that surprises me. And sometimes it's what I thought, but many times it's not. And so what I do is I teach people before they ask me, what should I do? I take them through a process that helps them tap into what does God want them to do? And we do that through a couple of things. One of them is learning to read our body. Because what's so cool about this is that our subconscious is actually the part of our brain that connects to source. God speaks to us through our subconscious. That's why when we're in prayer and meditation, it's easier to get those downloads, right?
Mhm.
So what's also really interesting is that our subconscious is the part of our brain that is moving my hands while I'm talking without me thinking about it. It's the part that is digesting my lunch. It's the part that is making my heart beat and my lungs expand. And so when I can learn to allow myself to first ask for guidance and then quiet myself down through neuroregulation, and I can explain what that means in a second, and then to trust that how it feels in my body in a yes, no way allows me to say, okay. And then I teach them how to essentially then ask the next question. And we go down this really cool rabbit hole until you can get to the place where, like, okay, now I know exactly what I'm supposed to do next. And the cool news is that I get to create this beautiful belief in themselves that they get to be their own guru, that I can help them and I can be their guide, but they're the hero. And that ultimately my goal is that you'll never need to depend on me, that we get to walk alongside this part of your journey, and that I'm going to equip you with what you need for the rest of your life. And that's what's so fun about it is that that's what people they when they come to me, I think that they feel seen, I think that they feel heard, I think that they feel like I see what's possible. I see them through God's eyes. Is really how I describe it. And when somebody sees you in that space and makes you feel validated and makes you feel loved and seen and there's hope, I think it sparks this whole new layer of what's possible. And I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to bring you down a place that God isn't asking us to do. I have a discernment in me that allows for me to share downloads that just come to me, but I allow, more importantly, the person to start to recognize their own downloads. And that's kind of how that looks. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, go back to the, what did you call it? Neuro.
Neuroregulation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Yay. Thank you for letting me go there. So, so neuroregulation, what do I mean by that? Okay. So I'm sure that Lois, you are probably attracting some personal development junkies like myself. I mean, I'm guessing that you love to learn and grow. Am I right?
I do. I am really bad at that. I take a lot of time learning new stuff.
Love it, like because that's how we're designed. That's the law of perpetual growth. Like we're designed to continue to grow and evolve. That's literally how we're designed. That's why when I plant a seed, that's why your seeds from your garden are meant to grow. It's how we're wired with God's law. Okay. What happens though sometimes is that those of us that get sucked into the excitement and love of personal development can also should on ourselves, where we're like, oh, dang it, LaChelle, like you've known all these things, you know, all these tools, why are you still stuck here? Why can't you figure this out? Why are you still talking to yourself that way in your head? Why this? Why that? You should know better. You should be through this faster. All those things, and we should in ourselves. I don't know if you've ever been there,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So what happens is that our thoughts create our feelings, right?
Hmm.
Thoughts create our feelings. Our feelings are what create our actions, and our actions create results. So it sounds like, in theory, that if I want to have a better outcome, then what do? I change my thoughts. That makes sense, right? Like, okay, great. So I'm going to do that. But then we get in the loop in our brain of the negative self-talk again. I always joke that I have two voices in my head. One, I named her Sharon because she's always sharing her opinion whether I want it or not. And then the other one I call my cheerleader Katie because she's always like, you got this. And so we allow our Sharons to run on loops, and brain science tells us that we can get on this negative loop. 80% or more of our thoughts are the same thoughts we thought yesterday. And of those, about 90% are negative.
Oh, that
Okay.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it was just as easy as thinking new thoughts, then why wouldn't we all be like living on the gravy train and things are easy and easy as pie, right? The reason is because when we are in a dysregulated state, meaning that fight or flight has kicked in, the part of our brain that needs the blood flow in order for that cognition, that reframing those thoughts is not getting the blood flow that it needs, because in fight or flight, our bodies are designed to divert blood flow to our core, to our arms and our legs in order to fight, flight, or freeze. So the logical part of our brain is not getting the blood flow that it needs. And so if I am always stuck in high stress, if I am always stuck in the hamster wheel of doing all the things to try to get ahead, if I'm stuck in this negative, loop, and I'm always just really down on myself, it's going to be very hard for me to bring myself back to the logical part that says, LaChelle, just think a new thought and everything is going to get better. Because it can be that simple, but in order for you to be able to do that, you have to be able to bring yourself back to a place where it allows our parasympathetic, our rest and digest to just sit in and allow ourselves to center ourselves and allow our heart rate to drop and for our breathing to slow down and for us to just be in God's presence.
Mhm.
And when we can regulate that, now all of a sudden my brain says, huh, look at it. I got all the blood I need. Now, what is it that you want from me? And I'm able to receive those downloads. I'm able to consciously shift my thoughts, right? But
Mhm.
if we're constantly stuck in that hustle, that burnout phase, the overwhelm phase, the stress phase, the I don't know how I'm going to build my business because I need to pay my bills phase, it's really hard for us to be able to get back to the place where we're able to just receive the guidance, to trust ourselves, to be able to think about the solutions that are going to change everything. And so what I always have my clients do as well, whenever I notice that they're in a fight or flight kind of state, is we do some exercises of just breathing. You and I had the opportunity before we even started to just pray.
Mhm.
It's
That was
amazing
awesome.
what happens, like when we just bring ourselves back to center and
Mhm.
allow that regulation and allow it to quiet so our spirit can actually speak to us, what can happen. I also use a couple of tools. There's some really cool technology that I have access to that my clients use that will analyze 10 seconds of their voice. And then it tells them the three emotions that they're currently out of range over expressing and one that they've been pushing down for more than 2 years. And
Just
it will
by
give
recording their voice?
by 10 seconds of their voice. It's
Oh,
amazing.
wow.
Because our voice carries the energetics of our emotions in our vocal cords. And so when we speak into this, it gives us this results, and it gives us a prescription of music to listen to that balances that out of range emotion back out so that you can get back into that neuroregulated state. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I had this problem, and this is something I see a lot. If somebody has a problem, let's just say it's down here at the level of my hand. And what we do is we analyze the heck out of it, thinking about it from every single angle we can possibly think of. What haven't I thought of? What haven't I tried? Blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the solution is coexisting. It's just at a different frequency. But while we're stuck down here trying to figure it out, we're actually not allowing ourselves to just raise up to the level that it can just appear. And all of a sudden, you'll get this idea out of nowhere, like, why didn't I think of that before? Or all of a sudden, when you allow that regulated state to come in and you get back into trusting God, you're like, holy cow, how is it that I all of a sudden got introduced to this person that literally changed my life? Or this conversation just shifted everything. is because I allowed myself to get into the energetics of the solution and it really came to me. And that happens to me all the time.
That sounds amazing. All right, I'm going to make an appointment with you. I want to try that out.
And actually, I would be happy to offer this to your listeners. So, it's a service that I normally I will give you guys a discount. So for $25 if you guys want to try this out and just have your own voice and analyzed with your own prescription of music. I'm going to give you the link, Lois, and then I'll just let people, your listeners, give it a try at as 75%. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, well,
Yes.
I'm definitely I'm in. I'm trying it. As soon as I get back in town, I'm going to be there.
It's
So,
remarkable.
tell me about your book.
Yes. Okay. So I will tell you about my book. I'm so excited about that. So God had on my heart to write a book, and I can I tell you this little backstory of like how this all came to be? Okay.
Sure.
So when I started my business back in 2016, I had the privilege of helping so many men and women. And I would sit across the table from these people and they would say to me, "Gosh, LaChelle, I can't wait for this, this, and this to happen." They would tell me about their dreams. I want to live on this beautiful house on Lake Superior, and I want to retire my fiance from a job he doesn't love. And I see all of this happening. I'm like, oh my God, I love it, right? And then what happens is they get, somebody that makes fun of them or, ghosts them in DMs, or they don't get the sale or they miss a goal. And now all of a sudden they shut down and their dreams just flutter away. And I saw this happening over and over again. And I kept seeing myself get into my own sabotaging habits, my own sabotaging patterns, where I knew God was calling me for more, but I would get stuck in overthinking. I'd get stuck in thinking I was a bother. I'd get stuck in confusion, not knowing where I was supposed to go or what I was supposed to do. And so I took all of the things that I needed for myself and all of the ways that I helped my clients over the years create essentially a handbook of how to get out of your own thinking way. And it's called Get Out of God's Way. And the really, big mission in this is to recognize that God has a beautiful plan for all of us. And I used to think that it was anesthesia. I went to school for all those years. It was literally my dream job, Lois. I was teaching for the best doctor of nurse anesthesia program in the country. I was taking care of people that came from all over the world at a very well-known medical institution. I had the boy and the girl, the house, the husband, all the things, right? But God had even more in store for me, even better. And I recognized that when I started to just trust Him and lean into that, He could show me a life beyond anything I could have ever imagined for myself. And so, what I want for all of us is to be able to discover what that could look like. And when I thought about the patterns that I kept seeing and the things that would consistently show up as sabotaging behaviors, and the things that I noticed that successful people did, they came out really seamlessly in this book that I ended up writing in 6 days. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's very fast. That means that God really was talking to you.
Like literally, like I started on a Sunday afternoon after my daughter's basketball tournament, and I was done by Friday evening. And it was just like everything just flowed. And what I discovered in this process is that there's really three things that successful people do. This is they recognize the desire that God places on our hearts. So if you're listening to this, you guys, and you're like, I don't know what it is yet, but there's more. I'm being pulled towards more. Again, that's law of perpetual growth. We are meant to evolve. And it's really just that leaning into that. The second thing successful people do is they make the decision to pursue it. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm going to try, I'm going to see how this goes. I'm going to, maybe this will happen. This is like a declaring a decree, like come hell or high water, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to learn the dang things. I'm going to hire the person. I'm going to make it happen. So that's the decision that comes from our gut. Like I'm ready, right? And then the third thing is the doing. It's the getting into action. It's this doing what you said you were going to do and following through with it. And so what I've discovered is that there are essentially three things that need to happen in order for that to happen. And that's really having the clarity of where God is asking you to go. And I want to just tell you guys that it doesn't come oftentimes from a burning bush or a giant road sign that says, go here, this is where your purpose is. It's literally just allowing those tiny little breadcrumbs, one after another, that are guided by those intuition, those drops, those discerning moments that you get to chance to see. And He will guide us, guide us, guide us. It's knowing the that you have within you all that you need. It's the confidence that everything that you need to accomplish this is within you. And it's literally just a matter of you allowing God to work through you and you receiving the guidance that He's trying to give you. And then the next one is consistency. So many of us allow ourselves to get off track because it's hard, or we get busy, or we get unclear, or we get scared. And so it really comes down to that confidence, clarity, consistency, that once we figure that out, like all of a sudden things start to click, and you stop getting in your own way as fast. And it's amazing once it all starts to make sense, that it's hard not to just smile, this little smirk, like, okay, I see you. Like, I got you. Like, that was different than I thought it was going to be, but this is way better than I thought it could be. And I thank you, God. And it's just figuring out how to get out of our own stinking way. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll get that book too. All right. So I've got two things now. I made my voice checked. I'm gonna buy your book. You know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. All right, Giant Builders. I think this is a book that God really wants us to open our eyes to. So if you leave a comment below the YouTube channel, I'll have a drawing and I will give away one of LaChelle's books. It won't be mine.
Oh my.
I'll buy another one and you can have that one. But yeah, I want to give away a book.
You know what? How about this? I will give away the book. You tell me who to send it to. I will sign a little note for you because I want to bless you. And we'll make this happen. And you guys, I also have a workbook that I created. It's beautiful. It's like 65 or something pages. That's completely free on my website that you can work along the manual that God gave me for all of us, in order to see what it is that we're capable of. And I want to just make sure that we'll put the link in
Oh yeah.
show notes for that as well, so you guys have access to that.
The link will be below. All right, so I have one more, I have another question. So tell me about your podcast.
Yes. Okay. Cool. So, the podcast is called Spiral Up, and the Spiral Up podcast is really just our opportunity to help ourselves continue to spiral up instead of spiraling down. You notice how they're all intertwined, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the things that can get in our way to cause us to spiral down. It's the thinking that, why am I doing this? Nobody's buying it anyway. It's the, I keep getting ghosted. It's the, this is harder than I thought. It's the, my husband doesn't believe in what I'm doing and I don't understand, all the things, right, that can cause us to spiral down. We compare ourselves on Facebook to other people. So what I try to do is give us practical tools that are going to allow us to spiral up. It's create a massive forward momentum. And we do that through brain science, we do it through quantum physics, we do it through scripture. And it's really just about, again, giving you the tools that are going to help you to, I want you to see what you're capable of. I want all of us to hear, well done, good and faithful servant, at the end of this lifetime. I want all of us to not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be renewed by the transforming, or be transformed by the renewing of our minds, right? Like, so that we can see our good and perfect will. And so that's what I want, is I want you guys to have the opportunity to not only hear from the things that God is downloading on my heart, but also meet the people in my world that are big game changers for me. And honestly, like, it's probably the place in my life that I allow the most authentic, vulnerable, silly version of me out, because I just want it to feel like we are just having a coffee together or a cocktail together. We're just like, a couple of beautiful souls that are on a mission to make this world a better place. And it's the place that I just love to be nerdy and quirky and silly and inspiring all at the same time.
No, that's wonderful. All right, we'll have a link to that below. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, so I need to make an appointment with you too. Okay, we'll talk about that after we're done.
That was good.
All
I
right.
love that, Lois.
Any closing thoughts?
You guys, I will just say that I want you to just recognize that the Lord has really big plans, and He's going to use you as an expression of Himself in this world, and that He chose you for a very special, beautiful assignment. And He knows that you're capable of it. And I just want you to just hear it from me that I am so excited for everything that you're going through. That remember that everything is perfectly perfect, that you're not on the wrong track, that you are not doing anything wrong, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And you get a chance to open your eyes and open your hearts and open your arms to everything that He's trying to give you at the same time. And I promise you that things are working out for you always. And I believe in you, even though we haven't met yet. My heart just feels you through Lois right now. Like I can't describe it, but there is just like this warmth that I know that she brings to your life. And I know that you're here listening to her for a reason. And because of that, we're connected. Our hearts are connected. And yeah, I just want you to know that there's somebody out there that believes in you. Lois and I believe in you.
Oh, I believe in you, giant builders. I believe that you're out there building giants and just bringing God's glory into this world. So, LaChelle, thank you so much. This was so amazing. I really appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you too. Thank you.
All right, giant builders, we'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.